So today I wanted to talk a little bit about my experience with the cold plunge, and specifically the Iced Up Industries cold plunge. And I've had this cold plunge for about 3 months now, and I really do enjoy this cold plunge. It has a lot of great features, but there's also some things I really don't like about it, and I'll get into that in a minute. So what I like to do is just provide you a brief overview of the setup process, and then just some general questions that I had going into starting the cold plunge. And so let's start off by talking a little bit about the design. It's an inflatable design, and what I really like, I like the ability to be able to move it around, to be able to break it down, and just to is a nice convenience to have something that is just very easy to move around. And I think that is one of the big benefits of this design. However, I will say that the chiller is very heavy, and I think it's about 50 pounds, and it's pretty big. But you can't really just move the chiller around. So it's not like it's a portable unit, but I was thinking for in the event that there was a hurricane or some kind of storm, or I needed the extra space for any kind of, for something, that it'd be very easy to just break down, use the space again, and then put it back up. So I really like that design, and it's a very rigid material, and it's definitely built to last. It's going to outlast the chiller, I'm sure, by far. It's just a really good design, and it's made out of the material that inflatable stand-up paddleboard. So it's really just a really solid piece of equipment, and you can literally stand on top of this. So it's really well designed. It doesn't really lose air. There's some fluctuations based on if it's colder or if it's hotter. But that's to be expected. It's just like a car tire. It loses air when it's colder, and the air expands when it's warmer. But I have had no issues really with it losing air, with the exception of something I'll talk about towards the end of the video. So I really like the design of the tub. If I were to do it again, I would probably get not the barrel, but the tub. I think that's a much easier form factor to live with. However, I was thinking that the barrel will not consume a lot of space, but when you look at the barrel with the stairs and the chiller, it's about the same footprint whether you get the tub or the barrel. So for the ease of use, I would highly recommend going with the tub. I think the tub is a much better form factor. But the setup is super easy. It comes in a bag. You just blow up the stairs. It comes with a pump, very easy to do if you've been kiteboarding or anything like that. It's just the same kind of pump as inflating a kite. So you inflate, there's 4 points to inflate. You can inflate the bottom stair, the top stair, the barrel itself, and the lid. And what I really like about the inflatable option is it's really easy to do. It's well marked. It tells you exactly how much to fill it up, and so the instructions are super easy. And on the back, there's 2 connection points. There's an in and an out. It comes with 2 PVC flexible kind of piping to attach to the chiller. But I would go to Lowe's and get pipe insulator and zip tie it along the pipe. This is extremely important because I realized that my chiller was running an awful lot because it would lose so much heat coming from the cold plunge to the chiller, and then out of the chiller into the cold plunge. And plus there was a lot of condensation that just kept the area around it wet. So by insulating that flex tubing, it made a huge difference in how much the chiller was running. So I would spend the $10, insulate it. You eliminate the problem with heat loss, and you eliminate the condensation problem, and it adds a little bit more rigidity to that flex tubing, so you won't have kinks. So the water runs more efficiently, and it doesn't work as hard on the chiller and the pump and whatnot. So I like the all-in-one design of the chiller, but it is much bigger, the chiller itself. So once you get it, you just, very easy to inflate the 4 components, attach the tube to the top, the tube to the bottom, and then the corresponding area on the chiller, prime the pump, and fill it with water, and you're off you go. So it's super, super easy. Some tips on setup is just make sure you put it exactly where you want it, kind of lay everything out. Make sure the hoses don't kink, because the hoses that comes with are just, they're super flexible and they kink really easy, so make sure the hoses aren't kinked, and that's really, really important. Once you start to fill it up, you have to make sure that you run it from the top one is the jet coming out. And so on the top of the plunge, that's the return, the cold water return. So you make sure that's the out on the chiller, and then the bottom one is the into the chiller. So you don't want to confuse that, because you can easily just, if it get air in the lines, and if the water goes too low, you'll be sucking air and could possibly burn out the pump, which is obviously bad. But some pro tips on setup is just really to make sure that it's oriented exactly the way you like. You have power close by. All the tubing is connected to where it's not kinked. And once you start to fill up the plunge, then what you'll do is you'll take the hose, hold it on the bottom one until it starts coming out the top, and that makes sure that the pump is primed properly. Once the tub or the barrel is full past the return, then you turn on the chiller, listen to make sure the pump's working properly, the water's coming out the top, and then you can adjust the temp. And adjusting the temp is super easy. You just push the set button and bring the temp down to your desired temperature, press set again, and off you go. The only other function on the chiller is the ozone button, which you run once a week to keep the water clean. So it's super easy. It is kind of loud. The chiller is kind of loud when it's running. Even when the pump's running in itself, it is kind of loud. So if you do have it in a space, it's that kind of low pitch, droning kind of sound that you hear. If it's inside, I'm sure it's greatly amplified, but it's not terrible. It kind of blends in. You kind of just don't hear it after a while. But it is louder, especially at night. This design is you can't separate the chiller from the water pump. So it's always running, and you never want to have the water stagnant just sitting there. They do sell a smart plug that you can buy, so you can set it on a schedule to make sure it's always ready for you, but I would highly advise against that, because you don't want stagnant water just sitting there. You can't just run the pump without the chiller like you can with some of the other designs. I was disappointed because I was going to do that, but the model that I received, the GFCI component that is built into the plug, which is a really nice safety feature, it's not auto reset. So once you attach it to a smart plug and turn it off, you have to literally come out and push the reset on the GFCI to get it to start again. So it won't work. And I called the company, and they just said, yeah, some of them came like that, and just go to Lowe's and buy a new GFCI that auto resets and put it in. So I was a little disappointed with that, but in the end, I think it really works out, because you don't really want the water to be stagnant. And here in Florida, when it's in the summertime, it's hot, so the chiller is always running. And so I had a lot of concerns for the longevity of the chiller because of it running so much. And I would typically keep it at 42. I put it down to 39, but can never get it down to 39. So I found 42, 44 kind of the sweet spot for where I live, to where it's got a balance of maintaining the temperature but not overrunning. And so you have to just really think about what makes sense for you. As far as maintenance goes, just every once in a while you just have to add a little bit of air to the tub in the lid, and you'll notice it when you're kind of getting out, when you to get out, you kind of push down. So you just have to add a little air, and I typically only would do it when I would change the water. But then that's the next question is, how often do you change the water? It has built-in filtration. It's got the ozone feature built in, and so you shouldn't have to change the water that often. But however, they do sell the Sorona product, and I would say I've had nothing but trouble with that Sorona product, and I followed the instructions on that they provide. But the issue is that if you put the sanitizer and the oxidizer in following their instructions, you get this gummy line around the water line, and like a film on the top of the water, and it's super gross. It's really hard to get off too, and like I've had to do so many water changes because of this product. It's absolutely terrible, and I thought it was something with the pump, but I actually called Iced Up Industries a few times, and they were super helpful, but they were getting kind of frustrated with me calling, asking about the water issue, and they weren't overly helpful when it's regarded. So I eventually called Sorona, and they just said it's a combination of the oxidizer and the sanitation. And so I would advise, don't buy the 6-month kit. You can buy the filters on Amazon for $20. And if you buy anything from the Sorona product, get the sanitizer, but you only put in maybe a quarter of a teaspoon. It's literally drops, just a little bit. And then I would recommend food grade peroxide. Just dump in probably a cup of food grade peroxide at the startup, and then just do a splash of food grade peroxide in maybe just 2 or 3 drops, quarter to an eighth of a teaspoon of the Sorona sanitizer, and that's going to be all you need to keep this clean, especially with the ozone feature. But if you follow their instructions and you start to get that film around the water line, then the water is just not balanced, and you just kind of have to start over. But that gooey line is it's kind of disgusting. The whole thing gets a little bit slimy, and it's just too much product, I think. So I think the products are good, but the instructions about how to use it are inaccurate. And I've had other friends that have the same Iced Up Industries tub and follow the instructions. Same deal with the water line. So it is the Sorona product. Doesn't have anything to do with the chiller. Doesn't have anything to do with the design of the tub. It's just the way the product is, the Sorona sanitation product is. So recommendation I saw on other YouTube channels, which I'll link below, is just maybe just the ice barrel stabilizer and maybe a little food grade peroxide. But I think the food grade peroxide, I tried to only do that for a little while, but it got a little slimy. But just a touch of sanitizer, way less than you think. Teaspoon, quarter teaspoon at most to start up. Eighth of a teaspoon for maintenance is really all you need to keep it clean. I was concerned that my electric bill would go up. However, it's very efficient design, even though it is running a lot, that I didn't notice any changes with my electric bill. So that was pretty promising. And some things I was considering is, well, how often should I change the water? You kind of know, like there's no like set way. I get in sometimes after I work out. I get in sometimes right when I wake up. I don't really rinse off before I get into it. So I was changing the water more than I needed to because of the chemical imbalance, but I think you could easily go 1 to 2 months without changing. it does get kind of funky. You'll start to see just little debris from your feet that get tracked in, just occasional piece of grass, just random stuff. That is just nice to like take it out and clean it. And once you drain the water out, I would recommend just using something very mild like a dish soap or like a Dial antibacterial, and that is enough to just go ahead and just keep it clean. I just wipe it all down, the inside, the outside, and so that's enough to keep it clean, and just fill it back up and get yourself some fresh water. The whole process takes maybe about 20 minutes at most to drain, and then fill it up. Some things that I didn't really like, the barrel does sweat a little bit. It's not too bad because it's pretty insulated, but it does sweat. If you're on a hard surface, you might want to consider getting some type of breathable barrier, because when I removed this at the bottom, there was some like mold, algae kind of growing, because the water just kind of like, it gets wet, it just sits there. So having some kind of breathable barrier would probably be nice to help. I was just afraid of, one, staining the deck, and two, degrading any of the material. So every time I drain it, I flip it over, wash it all down, make sure to get all that off and keep it clean. So overall, it is very easy to maintain. As far as the design, I thought initially it was going to save a lot of space, but to me it didn't really save space because of the stairs and the chiller side. But overall, it's not huge. It doesn't take a lot of space. And people ask, well, what's the difference between this and like a Plunge, or a premium product? Well, the Plunge is twice as expensive. So if you are just kind of getting into it, and honestly, you will save a lot of money going this route, but you're also going to be giving up on a lot of things. And personally, as much as I think this is a good product and I like it, cold plunging is something I really enjoy, and I thought I would save some money, and I did. I certainly did. You get what you pay for. You're going to get a cold plunge that's going to last a while. You're going the tub is certainly going to last a long time, no doubt about that. I do have some serious concerns about the chiller just being outside for 3 or 4 months that I've had it. It's starting to have rust points. The screws that they used are not like stainless screws. I had a friend that had a controller go bad on his. So I think the design and the concept is good. Maybe generation 2 of the chiller might be better, but being that that's such a significant cost of this setup, if you do go this route, I would recommend buying the warranty with it, just to make sure that you're covered. I'm sure that the chiller will last a year. Pretty sure the company is going to be able to support it, but I would make sure that you are covered if you do buy the warranty. And I never really say anything. I typically don't buy warranties, but if you are buying basically a generation 1 of these, I would buy the warranty, not for the tub design, but for the chiller itself. There's a lot of pieces into it. It's outside, so it makes sense. It is probably half the cost, so just go ahead and buy the warranty with that if you go that route. But there is a difference. I purchased a Plunge, and I must say that there is a difference in the overall design, the quality. It is more of a premium product, but at the end of the day, you're just getting into cold water. So it's really how much you want to invest. Time will tell whether how well these will last. And again, I've only had mine 3 months. I did have a couple problems with mine initially. So the bottom step was would lose air pretty quickly. And I called the company, and they offered some recommendations, but basically I had to fix it myself. You have to take this whole valve apart, and I had to use goop to reseal it. So I was a little irritated that there wasn't some direct support from the company to say, hey, we'll just send you a new one, no questions asked. It was literally a week I've had it after waiting for 12 weeks to get the unit. I start having a problem with the valve, and since I repaired it, no issues at all. The only other issue I had was with the chemicals, which I found a workaround just through learning, but again, following the recommendations here, you'll sidestep that. But overall, the company has been responsive, and it's great to be able to have a company that you can call and they actually answer the phone and you're able to talk to them. But just be expected that at this level, it's a startup. You may have to do some of your own troubleshooting and service yourself. But again, since they are local, a friend of mine did have an issue with his, and they offered to come out and help. And so they are standing behind their product. Just know that as a startup, they're pretty busy, so there are some things you might have to do on your own, which is totally fine. Nothing against the company. But when you're looking at versus like something like the Plunge versus this, the Plunge, I think, just being a more established company, just has different processes in place to support their customers and ship out different parts if you need. But overall, like, I did purchase the Plunge, and I think I do like the design of the tub better. But it's just different. It is more money, but I feel like the Plunge is going to be a more sustainable option because it doesn't have the all-in-one design. So all of the components are on the back of it. And so it'd be very easy if the pump goes bad to replace the pump, or if the ozone goes bad, you just replace the ozone component. So it's very easy to self-support with the Plunge, but I think you also have the company of the Plunge behind you, especially if you buy the warranty. And not to say that Iced Up Industry doesn't have that. I think they do. Corey and Lucas have been really great to answer all of my questions. They're very prompt to respond. But just some things as a consumer to be aware of. And some of the questions I get about cold plunging that I have myself are, when's the best time of day to plunge? And I think any time of day is the best time of day to plunge. Plunging it just has so many health benefits. You just feel great, but I think recommend, like, in the morning sometime is a great time to plunge. And the question is, well, how cold and how long? And I think that really depends on you. When you first start, 50-degree water, 55-degree water for 30 seconds seems like an eternity. So listen to your body, be safe, start high, and then just gradually reduce the time. And now I'm at 39 degrees for about 4 minutes, and sometimes I'm at 3 minutes, sometimes I'm at 2.5. So just listen to your body. When it's time to get out, it's time to get out. The best time of day, I think, really is in the morning. A friend of mine is convinced that within 20 minutes of waking up, going out and plunging is the best time. It really helps you start the day with the wind, and it is a lot harder, I gotta say, especially if you get up early, to walk outside and just get into cold water. It is really hard to do. So the temp and the duration, you can always do a higher temp, a longer duration, colder temp, shorter duration, but just listen to your body, consult with your doctor if you need to, but just make sure you're just being safe about it. During, I don't typically shiver, which is strange. If I have to get up, when I do it right when I get up and get in, I'll shiver, but if I'm up for any period of time before that, I typically don't shiver. So that's kind of strange. But during, you focus on your breathing, and sometimes it's a struggle to stay in. Sometimes you can stay in longer. If I have especially stressful day ahead, I may stay in a little bit longer just to get that extra win. But afterwards, you really feel pretty amazing that you completed this, you were done, and you have that sense of accomplishment. But about 15 minutes after, you have what's called an after drop, where your body is still, even though you're out of the water, continuing to get cold, right? And so it takes a little bit so you get colder before you get warmer. And it's always really important to let yourself warm up naturally. So right when I get out of the plunge, right out of the cold water, I will do some stretching. I have a stretching routine that I do that I just let myself dry off naturally a little bit and just gain some extra flexibility. So that's really helpful to do. And then I'll go in and change clothes, get into some dry clothes, and either go work out or start my day depending on when I do it. But it's very important to let yourself warm up naturally. So after, I feel really great. I have a lot of energy for the day. I have that sense of accomplishment. So at the end of the day, I would recommend, if you have somebody that has a cold plunge, you know somebody, go ahead and try it out. And even just starting with cold showers is a great way to get into it. And it does seem pretty gimmicky, and it does seem kind of ridiculous to spend either like $2,000 or $5,000 on cold water. But at the end of the day, you're investing in your health. I absolutely would recommend this product. If you do have a little bit extra money and you have tried it and you know it's something for you, if you are going to be doing it for a long time, I might consider putting the extra money in to get something more like the Plunge, because it is more of a premium product. But this is a great, no frills, very utilitarian way to get cold and get all the benefits of cold plunging. But there are some things to consider that you should know about when thinking about how you're going to cold plunge. That I would certainly just be an informed consumer. But you can't go wrong. The company is great. I love that they're a local startup here in Florida. I love that they answer the phone. So there's a lot of really good benefits around their product. I just would like to see maybe a little bit more maturity with to validate the longevity of the chiller. If you like this video, please subscribe. And if you have any questions, reach out with a message or comment. I'm happy to help, and I will post some links below. Thanks for watching.